When I look into your eyes and you see the crazy gypsy in my soul, it always comes as a surprise when I feel my withered roots begin to grow. Well, I never had a place that I could call my very own. Well, that's alright, my love, 'cause you're my home. When you touch my weary head and you tell me everything's gonna be alright, I say, use my body for your bed, and my love will keep us warm all through the night. Well, I'll never be a stranger, and I'll never be alone, 'cause whenever we're together, that's my home. Home could be the Pennsylvania Turnpike, Indiana's early morning dew, high up in the hills of California. Home is just another word for you. Well, I never had a place that I could call my very own. Well, that's alright, my love, 'cause you're my home. And if I travel all my life and I never get to stop and settle down, long as I have you by my side, and there's a roof above and good walls all around, you're my castle, you're my cabin, you're my instant pleasure dome. I need you in my life, 'cause you're my home. You're my home. You're my home.
Our opening words this morning are from Melody Beattie. Gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos to order, confusion to clarity. It can turn a meal into a feast, a house into a home, a stranger into a friend. Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow.
Today, the service is called home. And the grown-ups are going to be talking about what that all means. And I wanted to ask you all what you think a home needs to make it a home. What does a home have? Painting, okay. A house is made of wood and stone, but only love can make a home. That's beautiful. Say again. Family. Lillian, you had your hand up. What makes a home? It's all good. Anybody else have any ideas about what makes a home a home? All right. I need Wi-Fi in my home. That I know. Today's story is about a bear named Henry who builds a cabin. One spring day, Henry decided to build a cabin. He borrowed an axe and cut down 12 trees. Henry cut the logs into square beams. He notched the bottom beams to fit into corner posts. The corner posts fit into ceiling beams, and the ceiling beams fit into roof beams. In April, his friend Emerson helped raise the beams. The work made him hungry. "Henry," he said, "your cabin looks too small to eat in." "It's bigger than it looks," said Henry. And he led his friend to a bean patch he had planted behind the cabin. "When it's finished, this will be my dining room." This page. He's out in a bean patch, right? In May, Henry bought an old shed and took it apart. He nailed the boards on the floor, the roof, and the walls of his cabin. Henry was nailing the last board when his friend Alcott arrived. "Henry," he said, "your cabin looks too dark to read in." "It's brighter than it looks," said Henry, and he led his friend to a sunny spot beside the cabin. "When it's finished, this will be my library." Where is he? Okay, he's in a nice bright spot in the woods, right? In June, Henry put a door in front. Then he put 2 used windows in the side walls. He bought old shingles for the roof and walls. Henry was nailing the last shingle when Miss Lydia peeked in the window. "Henry," she said, "your cabin looks too small to dance in." "It's bigger than it looks," said Henry, and he led her to the front of the cabin where a path curved down to the pond. "When it's finished, this will be the ballroom with a grand stairway." Where was he? He was down by the pond. On the 4th of July, Henry moved into his cabin. He ate beans in his dining room. He read in his library, and he danced down the grand stairway to the pond. When it started to rain, Henry ran back to his cabin. "It's bigger than it looks," he said. "This is just the room I wear when it's raining." Last picture. He's wearing his cabin. Just fits him. Do you think you would want to live in Henry's cabin? No. What else do you need? Room, fair, space, a table, that'd be good, furniture, a bed. Good point. A roof. Okay, fabulous. Let's go to class.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountains Shenandoah River. Life is old there, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, flowing like a breeze. Take me home, country roads, to the place where I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Hammer, take me home, country roads. All my memories gather round her, miner's lady, stranger to blue water, dark and dusty, painted on the sky, misty cloudy moonlight, teardrop in my eye. Take me home, country roads, to the place where I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Hammer, take country roads. I hear a voice in the morning, how she calls me. Radio reminds me of my home far away. And driving down the road, I get the feeling that I should have been home yesterday. Yesterday, take me home, country roads, to the place where I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Harmon, take me home, country roads.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you for the first time. You've made a great worship space out of this. Really pleasant. Would you join me in the responsive reading? Everybody have a hymnal? Good. The way I like to do this is I read the text part and then I join you in the italics part. I'm sorry? 656? Once more the fields have ripened to harvest, and the fruitful earth has fulfilled the promise of spring. The work of those whose labor has been rewarded. They have sowed and raised, planted and gathered. How rich and beautiful is the bounty gathered, the golden grain, and tastes its home, the grapes of purple and green, the common apples and yellow pears, and all the colors of orchard and garden, red and gray. Season follows after season. After winter, the spring. After summer, the harvest-laden autumn. From down to houses, from flower to fruit, from seed to harvest, the beauty of the earth unfolds. From the harvest of the soil, we are given occasion to garner a harvest of the heart and mind, a harvest of resolve to be careful servants of all their gifts and abilities, a harvest of reverence for the wondrous power and life at work in things that grow and in the soul, a harvest of gratitude for every good which we enjoy, and fellowship for all who are sustained by earth's beauty. That little alien creature in the film E.T. brought millions to tears as he gazed up at the distant planet, plaintively crying, "Home, home." Home is, after all, one of those most evocative words in our language, which when we hear it, summons a surge of sounds and sights and smells, voices, places, feelings. Home has squeezed or slipped into the lines of countless poems, plays, and syrupy songs for the longing and the lonely. Here in this poem by Sidney Royce Lysart are all those promises of protection, of holding and harboring that home conjures. He writes, amid the boundless and unknown, each calls some guarded spot her own. A shelter from the vast we win in homely hearths, and make therein the glow of light, the sound of mirth, that bind all children of the earth. And when the rain beats loud upon the window pane, and shadows of the firelight fall across the floor and on the wall, and all without is wild and lone, on lands and seeds and worlds unknown, we know that countless hearth lights burn in darkened places, and discern interwoven with a troubled plan of worlds and ways unknown to man. The shelter at the heart of life, the refuge beyond doubt and strife, the rest for every soul outcast, the homely hidden in the vast. And doubt not that whatever fate may lie beyond us, early or late, however far afield we roam, the unknown way will lead us home. Now, Dorothy, lost in the mad, surreal world of Oz, shuts her eyes tight and chants, "There's no place like home. There's no place like home." And the moral of Dorothy's adventure is clear. Oz is no place for us. Consulting with men with scarecrows and lions, witches, munchkins, and wizards, we belong in some state of Kansasness in a place called home. And yet the human spirit has long been lured into wandering off, scouting out some place we might come to, greener, glossier, bigger or smaller than where we are. Home used to be where the parents lived. And then it was where our grandparents lived. And now where is it? Where was it? Where has it gone? It occurs to me that some creator created a yearning so that humankind would not stay crammed into paradise, but restlessly seek some other great, good place beyond those fiery gates. Brad Emerson writes, "We are the people who are always talking about finding a place that we can truly call home, and at the same time dreaming of visiting Tibet or living in Paris. We are passionate, he writes, about community issues, but forever thinking about moving away to get a better job, more money, or some other abstraction. The state of being in one place and thinking about another, Edmondson writes, is our natural habitat. Occasionally, someone will ask me, as perhaps you have been asked, where is home for you? And it occurs to me that I no longer have a quick and easy answer to that question. I'm no longer even sure what is meant by the question. I know I'm not being asked where I live now. I'm being asked where I come from, where I belong, perhaps where my people are. Where is home for you? And I find I begin a quick and silent review of where I have been. This place and that, here for a while, there for a while. But that isn't it. Those places were not home. Not home, that great, good place. There's no place like. Years ago, when I had a more pronounced English accent than I have now, I delivered an Easter sermon in Edinburgh, in Scotland, while I was on sabbatical in Britain. After the service, during tea and scones, it was revealed to me during coffee hour that there was little discussion of my sermon, which is really the purpose of coffee hour, is to take apart the sermon, what you like and what you don't. A woman told me that many people, rather than debating my finely wrought discourse, had been debating where I came from. You don't sound American, she said, but you don't really sound English either. And you certainly are not a Scot. So my sermon had stirred very little interest, it seemed, but at least consensus had been reached about where I came from. I was South African. Well, I'm not. And where then? And what? And who? And my current address not counting, if I was told to get my Donald Duck book bag, clean out my cubby and go home, where would I go? Nostalgia, literally translated, means sickness for the past. Now, I suppose that still to some extent home might be where the parents live. But after the parents and their place is gone, then what? Then there is no more reason for that place to be home than any other place where I have lived. Where is home for you, they ask. Well, eventually I might get around to saying that originally I came from England, because that must be it. That must be what they're wondering. The questioner must want to know, or at least be politely asking, where I began, where I came from. Now, I'd opted to take that sabbatical in England. I wanted to see if I could rediscover myself there, rummaging around in my childhood. I found the last house that I had lived in with my parents, and I was horrified to discover that developers were in the process of gutting the insides of all the Victorian row houses on my block to make condos, which would be more suitable for those of so little taste. On the outside of that old row house, there had been, when we were there, a small balcony just off my parents' bedroom. And one day, shortly after the war had finally ended, that was the second big one, we had gathered, flags in hand, on that balcony to greet good Queen Mary and brave King George as they drove by. They had come to thank our city for our war effort. I know the king saw me. I know the princesses waved at me. But the once sanctified balcony was gone. The developers had stripped them all off, up and down the street, and replaced them with picture windows. It was gone. Home was gone. You can't go home again. Thomas Wolfe wrote, oh lost, he wrote. What we have lost, some of us, to varying degrees, is our sense of where we come from, where we belong, of who our people are, of where and what home is. We have become a nation of nomads and migrants, each generation stretching the fraying golden cord to home. As someone said, America's winners are discovering that something is missing from their prize. What is missing is a sense, perhaps, of community, of a sense of belonging, of home. And so we are suckers for home cooking soup, made in 1,000-gallon vats, pushovers for home-baked pies made in a 5-acre factory, chumps for anything handcrafted, no matter how badly. Antique hunters want to buy something, whatever it is, out of a time and a way of life that has become a myth and that no longer has anything to do with us at all. Still, I do have my treasures from another time. In a corner of my study stands a large hand-hewn hay fork from some long-rested farmer's barn. I work at a massive oak roll-top desk. The walls of my study are covered with pictures of other times, other places. And the walls of my bedroom are graced with pictures by Andrew Wyeth. American Gothic, everybody's grandparents. In ancient peoples, home was a place from which other worlds could be discovered. It was assumed that the world was made of real and unreal, of form and chaos. Home was the real and formed place from which heroes would venture into the chaos to bring it into order, to make it like home. The old maps marked the safe and known places, and where they end were drawings of monsters and warnings of, here there be dragons. Explorers left the real and the familiar to venture near realms of unworldly horrors, even to the edge of the world itself. The great epics of journeys and adventures like those of Ulysses came from deep within the human psyche, came out of that ambivalence between the desire to remain in the safety of the known place, to discover what lies behind the limits of the place we have cleared and ordered. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Oh why can't I? For some indigenous peoples, home was the center of existence. It was depicted as the place where a vertical line crossed with a horizontal line. And there in the crossing was the place to make home. The vertical line stretched from the underworld to the sky. The horizontal lines were all those places and paths and roads across the earth to other places. And so home was the place on the vertical line where one was closest to the gods and to one's ancestors in the underworld. And there at home one was also at the starting place and hopefully the returning place from all journeys. But where shall we, of the new nomads, our clans diminishing, where shall we find such a place as home, from where we can bring order and meaning to the world? Most Americans are now rather proficient migrants, packing up tents and moving on from time to time, saving the cardboard boxes for next time, assuming impermanence. Some will forget eventually how to respond to the question, where is home for you? Again, as Edmondson said, the state of being in one place and thinking about another is our natural habitat. Where then shall we find home? Remember that old cliche, home is where the heart is? Well, I'm almost embarrassed that I'm going to come very, very close to saying that. But you expect more erudition from me than that, so let me complicate it a little bit. Recall that ancient understanding that home is where the vertical line, the line from the underworld to the heavens, intersects with all the horizontal lines, all the possible paths and roads to all the possible places. Where the lines intersect is home, the place from which to go forth, to confront chaos, to bring order and meaning. Where lines intersect is the center of all meaning and all being, and that center is home. And where is the center? In the mythology of Native American peoples, the center is everywhere. In the book Little Big Man, as the bluecoats invade the village, slaughtering children, women, old men, the chief, old Skins, says that the trouble with those white men slaughtering and massacring, the trouble with them, old Lodgeskin says, is that they don't know where the center is. The reason the soldiers could slaughter women and children, he said, is that they are white. And white people don't know where the center is. The center, old large-skins said, the center is where God is. Or the proper interpretation of Wakantanka for God is whoever. The center is where God is, and the center is everywhere. The center is in this sacred kiva here. Yet it is also in that centered sacred kiva. The center is in you. The center is in me. The center of the self and the center of the universe is the same center. Home, then, cliché or not, is indeed where the heart is. Heart being the symbolic center of humanness. Home is wherever heart is the center. Home is the place of ordering and meaning maker. Now we live in a time of amateur and professional lamentation. Poets and essayists, sermon writers, and songmakers lament that which has been lost. Nostalgia is big business. Nostalgia is sickness for the past, for which so many seek a cure. We may recognize that home, as a particular place, has faded into the background for us, even if we can still picture Mom fussing with the squash and Dad carving the turkey. Many of us can't fix a particular room in mind. The script is the same, but the set has gone. And we can just lament that, say or sing, what a shame that is, and then go out and buy that home-cooking gravy and get our country-looking clothes from L.L. Bean, even if they are made in Taiwan. Or we can accept the reality that our ways of living do change, and that what is needed is not more or mere lamentation, but the tenacious hanging on, the recovery of the deep values and the ways of being which were once housed in those places called home. In fact, it seems to me that the home we make of a place is essentially, in its essence, is spiritually a reflection of the home we make within ourselves. No place can be that center from which we go forth to discover and to gain strength, to bring order and meaning to the world. No place can be that place unless it is a place that has been made sacred and safe and powerful by our own personal at-homeness. Religious places, sacred spaces, are made special and sacred by what the people who inhabit them bring to them. Without you, this is just a gymnasium. Many congregations call their places of meeting sanctuaries. Not because they are hiding places, as some UU liberals insist, but places to gather strength, conviction, and purpose. And so it is with our homes, our living places. They are made setting out places and havens to return. By the inner spirit of home we endow them with. The place we call home can now, I think, change from time to time with no damage to our spirit, because the place we call home now is made home by all there is that reflects our inner at-homeness. A hotel room cannot be a home for me, no matter how long I may spend in it, no matter how much it is touted as being homey, because there is nothing of me in it. In my travels, I can't remember ever entering a hotel room and breathing a sigh of comfort and relief. No, the room is merely part of the journey, no matter what Hilton may say. A place that is home has about its walls the pictures that are windows from and into my soul. It has the colors that enliven and soothe me. It has the books that nurture me. And it has all those collected treasures that I have brought home to keep in touch with other places and other times. The quest for home, then, is, as Joseph Campbell taught, is foremost an inner quest. We may travel far and wide to the sea or to the plains in search of fortunes and wizards, but ultimately the journey home is the spiritual journey to the center. Believe me, I am well aware that not everyone's journey would lead to some great good place called home. Sadly, for many, perhaps for some here, thoughts of home are journeys into dark places. Fear, danger, at the very least, loneliness. It has occurred to me often that my task as a psychotherapist was to be a guide out of the soul-destroying place and away from the people toward a new place in which to live, thrive, be at home, be healed. In our time, we are seeking for that great good place to call home, from which we can order our world and give it meaning. The path lies inward. It's not out there. We will know we have arrived home when we know that we are safe where we are at our center, when we know, too, that we can go anywhere, bring that center to any place, and make it home. Wolf said, you cannot go home again, but remember what Dorothy learned from the Tin Man as the rock group America sang. Oz never did give the Tin Man nothing that he didn't already have. And what she learned from the good witch, Glinda, was that she could have gone home any time she wanted. I have a sort of benediction that you may or may not participate in. I would like you to click your heels together 3 times and say, there's no place like home. Click, click, click. Good to be with you.
Soon the day will arrive when we will be together. No longer will we live in fear, and the children will smile without wondering whether on that day the thunder clouds appear. Wait and see what a world this can be. If we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be. If we share, if we care, you and me. Some have dreamed, some have died to make a bright tomorrow, and our vision remains in our hearts. Now the torch must be passed with new hope and with sorrow, and a promise made of a new start. Wait and see what a world there can be. If we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see